Hey guys, what's up? It's BigJackFilms here, and welcome to another opening night. So we've got more of these coming in every week. Sorry this one's on a Friday. We usually put these out on a Thursday, but I just didn't have time to get to this. I'm literally recording this. It's 11:33 at night, and I'm finally getting to recording this. I'm probably gonna make this about 10 minutes, but we got a request. This was one of the rare requests where we take actually one of our commenters that isn't a Patreon request. David Salgado had mailed to us 3 movies that we're going to cover in the next 3 weeks. They're films that he was heavily requesting. And that is the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy. We're going to start with the first one. Now, before we get started, again, request opening nights. If you guys want to support us, go check out our Patreon down below. Just $1 or more will get you early access to all of our content, as well as other special features. And if you donate $5 a month, you get a chance to essentially vote for, or actually choose a opening night movie review like this of your choosing. So whatever movie you want us to talk about, we'll review it, and we'll discuss it, just $5 on Patreon. So, we're here to talk about, the first How to Train Your Dragon. Now, my history with, How to Train Your Dragon, and DreamWorks in general, let me put it like this. So, sorry, I'm just turning my Bluetooth off. My history with, DreamWorks, I've been a mild fan. I haven't watched anything of them currently. In fact, watching the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, I haven't seen the second or third one yet. It's going to be basically me taking a look at their more recent content, even though Dragon 3 has been out for a couple years or whatever. But, the whole thing with DreamWorks is that it was obviously started up by Jeffrey Katzenberg and Steven Spielberg, because Katzenberg had pretty much, I think, like, got kicked out of Disney, so he's like, okay, fuck you guys, I'm gonna make a whole movie ripping on you guys with Shrek, which, I'm not gonna talk about Shrek because, bottom line, the internet ruined Shrek, and looking back on those films are fucking terrible. They're not good animated movies. Few things in it I like, but most of them are just very mean-spirited, unfunny, anticlimactic pieces of ogre shit, and the internet made it better. The internet, I cannot unsee things like Emperor Lemon's YouTube poop. I can't unsee it. You can't unsee it looking at Shrek. But I do like some DreamWorks movies. I mean, Ants is not a good movie, because it's a big ripoff of A Bug's Life, but there's stuff I like. John Powell's scores for a lot of the early DreamWorks movies I really enjoy. So, the stuff he did for Shrek, the stuff he did for Chicken Run. Chicken Run's a great score. Great movie, by the way, by Aardman. Ants, the score to that is great. There's some stuff I like. I'm more of a fan of their 2D animated films that they had for a short period of time. I haven't seen Prince of Egypt in, like, decades. It's been a long time. I don't think I've seen it since I saw it in theaters. Really enjoyed Sinbad when that came out because that had Catherine Zeta-Jones, which was one of my first celebrity crush, honestly, after seeing Zorro. So she was great in that, along with Brad Pitt and others. Road to El Dorado I really liked. I've seen a lot of appreciation for it recently, and looking back on it, oh, this is gonna sound terrible, but Shell is hot as hell. Like, damn, girl, you're thick and you look fucking great. Oh my god. Shell's amazing. But, to the point, I don't want to get into that kind of shit, but DreamWorks over time, their animated films have ranged, been hit or miss. I did enjoy, what was it, Monsters vs. Aliens. I think that's actually a decent film. A very funny film. I actually laughed my ass off. I remember seeing that in the theater with a bunch of kids. Like, all the kids and families were in the back. I was the only grown-ass man seeing that. But the 3D was fun. It was all great and shit. But I remember seeing How to Train Your Dragon. That's what we're talking about, the first one. I did see it in theaters when it initially came out. All I remember is that it was this big, amazing, epic, animated film with amazing 3D, and I remember the 3D being pretty fucking kick-ass, I'm not gonna lie. But looking back on the film, what is it, like 10, 12 years later? I can't remember how long it's been since the first one came out. Looking back on it again, it's actually still pretty damn good, I'm not gonna lie. The first How to Train Your Dragon is actually a pretty solid film, pretty decent story, and all the way around. So the story is about, basically, this, character named Hiccup, who is voiced by I can't remember his name. He was a huge comedian in the late 2000s. Like, he was huge. He was in all these movies. He's that guy who always sounds like this. He's kind of this nerdy kid who's in every fucking movie and comedy and shit. I can't remember, but he's Hiccup, and he is the son of the king of this Viking tribe thing on this island that slay dragons. And there's, like, a whole list of dragons. In fact, the amount of dragons that are in this fucking movie are the amount, as you've seen in something like Pokemon. They're Viking Pokemons. You know, you gotta catch them all. You gotta kill them all. His dad's a jerk who only cares about slaughtering the dragons, and all this stuff goes up to it. There's obviously there's a bunch of other sidekick characters. There's one fat one voiced by McLovin, the comedy kid from Breaking. I can't remember half of these kids' names, half of the actors in this film. There's some, like, weird pirate-looking hook for hand guy. I swear it was Bill Connolly. I can't remember. But I can't remember who voiced him, but he was really funny. There's the two twins, you're filling little the group, and then you have Astrid, who is also a pretty kick-ass character. She's badass, she's a badass blonde. I love those kind of characters. She is, she does all this cool shit, and Hiccup kind of wants to not only be like her, but essentially be in a relationship, which I heard they do eventually get into a lot more in the later films. But anyway, Hiccup discovers and captures a Night Fury, which is a really rare dragon, and finds out that it's actually pretty friendly, befriends it, learns how to train it, learns how to fly it. All these adventures happen while also creating sort of a conflict between the dragons and the Vikings, and all that good shit. And the dragon's name is the iconic Toothless. Is Toothless as iconic as something like Smog, or, well, I'll get to the characters and everything, but, that's the plot. But the film overall is actually pretty solid. It's a pretty decent film. Looking back on it, the animation's still pretty damn gorgeous overall. If I had seen it, if they had re-released it in 3D again, I probably would have gone to see it. It would have been a fun time, But in terms of, like, all the different stuff, like, I mean, I'll be honest, guys, I'm not a big Viking guy. I mean, sure, yes, I enjoy my medieval epics. I love my stuff from Scotland with Braveheart. I love Gladiator. I love Lord of the Rings. I love the Robin Hood, shit like that. Vikings, to me, have always been kind of essentially medieval pirates, essentially, with big horns and, the Viking stereotype with, like, the opera singing and what's opera doc and shit. They never seemed intimidating to me, Vikings. Maybe it's just the hat, it's the horns, it's the helmets, it's the weapons. They're very primitive. Now, granted, I do like the Lego Vikings line they did years ago. I actually do want to get the Fortress one because I have some projects for that. I want to make a King Kong native wall with that mod. But with Vikings, it's an interesting bit of history, but I'm not a fan of, like, how they handle stuff. Like, their ships are so primitive. I would rather be sailing a pirate ship. I had a discussion with a friend of mine, Lunacy Bunny, on this about what would you rather choose, a pirate ship or a Viking ship? And I chose a pirate ship because pirate ships are more advanced and have cooler shit. So there's that. But this movie actually is not only a really great visual film, it's also very funny. Like, the dialogue, again, the jokes really land. Yeah, it's a kid's movie. You're going to expect your fart jokes here and there, but, each of the characters do stand on their own. The dragon designs are absolutely fantastic. Some very creative designs went into this, and it reminds me a lot of, like, kind of the early designs for stuff that Pixar would do for something like A Bug's Life back in the day, where they would have all these different designs of bugs and shit, and they would just pick, like, just take all the designs and say, just make that a dragon, just take everything we have on the board and just make it a design. And it's great. Like, you get some pretty cool, oh, shit, there's a light, oh god, you get some pretty cool designs in terms of dragons in this film. The big dragon at the end is actually fucking, like, holy shit, that thing's huge. Like, there's some, like, Godzilla-sized dragons in this, which are great. And to kind of add on to the whole thing of the first film, and my relationship with the franchise, in fact, I actually saw the How to Train Your Dragon arena show that was done by the guys who did the Walking with Dinosaurs show and the Kong musical and all that stuff. And the live show was actually pretty good. I mean, minus the fact that halfway through, Toothless stopped working, and they had to stop the show for a good 20 minutes to fix Toothless. Poor Toothless was just hanging there as they were pretending to fly. I felt so bad for them. But it was funny, too, because I remember seeing the show. The animatronics overall are spectacular in that show, But what's really funny is that when they're all flipping around doing, like, fighting and stuff, and they add this sort of, like, classic Power Rangers whoosh sound effect whenever they're, like, swinging. They're like... So it's like, it's literally like, I felt like, oh my god, I'm transported back to, like, 1995 when I was a wee kid seeing the Power Rangers live arena show, I think at, like, Canada's Wonderland or something, or whatever, and it was, like, presented by 7-Up of all things, but it reminded me a lot of that. Like, I just wanted to bring that up as a side story, but again, the visuals are great, the characters have a lot of great moments, like, you really feel that the pressure that Hiccup has with his father, and not reasoning with his father, like that scene where they finally, where the dad realizes, holy shit, you know, you've been training a dragon and all that stuff, but he's not listening, because it's like, the problem is like, Hiccup is standing up for the dragons, and, you know, his dad's like, you know, you're no longer my son. Well, okay, well, why? Because he's now, like, why don't you just call him a traitor at that point? I mean, it's kind of weird that way. Like, there's a lot of great messages in here in this film, that you can kind of have parallels with other stuff, you know, like when the dad says they've killed hundreds of us, and Hiccup's like, we've killed thousands of them, you know, this sort of dynamic going on. The action scenes are spectacular, really fun dog fights, and great scenes with, like, the dragons flying around. Like, I remember the 3D being pretty kick-ass in this film. But aside from that, it's a very simple story. It's not too overly world building, as I've heard we'll probably get to in the sequels, which I am probably gonna watch soon. But yeah, it's still a decent film. It's still a decent animated picture. I called it a picture, like, oh, not in photos pictures. People don't call them pictures anymore. I call them movies. But I still like this film. I still think out of all the DreamWorks 3D animated films, this is one of the better ones. I would still say something like, you know, Monsters vs. Aliens is decent. I'll admit out of all the Shrek films, Shrek 2 is still the better film. But even the first one and everything else just stinks. It's awful. Oh, enough with those specials, by the way. So many specials. Actually, no, I take it back. I really like the Madagascar movies. The Madagascar movies are actually honestly hilarious. Some of the funniest comedies I've seen in the 2000s, as well as, you know what? I remember seeing Over the Hedge. I completely forgot about it. I don't know if it holds up really much. And you know what? Even then, I'm kind of a big defender of Shark Tale. I kind of like Shark Tale. Okay, it's cringy. Will Smith fish is horrifying. Angelina Jolie fish is horrifying. This is a weird-ass movie that combines, like, weird Bad Boys comedy mixed with The Godfather, mixed with Jack Black, and why is Martin Scorsese, an Academy Award-winning director, a fucking blowfish? I don't fucking know. It's a weird movie, but I kind of like it. But, yeah, so DreamWorks is hit or miss for me. But How to Train Your Dragon is definitely one of the top ones. It is one of the best films in their catalog. I'd give this one probably about a good 9. About a good 8 or 9 out of 10. Because I'm not a big DreamWorks fan, I can't really hold it to the highest regards. But I do have fun with it. So take it for what it is, and if you're a fan of the franchise, definitely go for it. Just go for it. Watch it again. I hope my ranting and my Star Wars kind of undershirt crap gets you entertained to watch a movie about dragons riding around for an hour and a half. Although, for me, with Toothless, something like Toothless, the character, do I put him on par with, like, Smaug the Dragon, or the 3 dragons of Daenerys Targaryen, or something like Draco? To me, okay, Draco from Dragonheart, to me, is the definitive dragon. It's really hard to compare. It's like, ranking all the dragons in fiction and film, it's like, Draco, Smaug, Falkor, the dragons from Game of Thrones, and then there's Toothless. I put Toothless at the bottom because it's a cartoon, but those are kind of my favorite dragons. If you were to give me a couple of my favorite dragons, yeah, so it would be Draco, Smaug, Falkor, the 3 dragons from Game of Thrones, and then Toothless, if you want to go there. So, there's that. So, yeah, I mean, I overall enjoyed the film. If you guys are fans of How to Train Your Dragon, or if you've never seen it and you just watched it, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Again, if you want to request us to do opening nights, because unfortunately, because the movies are currently shut down in the cinema, we can only do classics. So let us know if you want to support our doing a request. Go check out our Patreon. They're $5 for or opening night request, and we'll talk about movies. This is something we like to do, is talk about movies in the car. So tune in next week. We're going to take a look at David Salgato's second request, that being How to Train Your Dragon 2, which I have never seen. I skipped out on the sequel, so maybe I'll have a different opinion on it compared to the first one, but let's see what happens. So until the next video, guys, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you guys later. This is BigJackFilms signing off, saying I don't know really many lines from How to Train Your Dragon, so I will say this. Dracarys! That's all I got. Later!